Thanks for joining us on episode 831 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Stacy Henry, owner and coach at Center Branch, where we grow great leaders. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to deal well with change is key, and one way to be inspired to do this is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend, Scott Mader. I get to pull the heart out of the box, and it's this overwhelming, kind of what we talked about a few weeks ago, this joy, this overwhelming sentiment of joy. So I'm hopeful, I hope that I can look back on my life and the gift that I'm given is love.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's interview with Stacy Henry from Center Branch, I asked Stacy to share with you her top tips to make a dent in the universe. I also asked Stacy to share what she hopes the impact of her book, Get Rooted, will have on readers. And Stacy also shares with you her hopes for her legacy and what's coming next for Stacy on this journey.
One reason I like to bring you great interviews like the one you're going to hear today is because of the power in learning from others. Another great way to learn from others is through reading books. But if you're like most people today, you find it hard to find the time to sit down and read. And that's why today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Go to inspiredstewardship.com/audible to sign up, and you can get a 30-day free trial. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from, and instead of reading, you can listen your way to learn from some of the greatest minds out there. That's inspiredstewardship.com/audible to get your free trial and listen to great books the same way you're listening to this podcast.
Stacy Henry is the owner and founder of Center Branch, a people-centered leadership business dedicated to helping both companies and individuals perform to their highest potential. With services that include keynote speaking and workshop facilitation, women's development, and leadership and executive coaching, Center Branch enables people to be their best so that they and the companies they work for may flourish. Stacy brings 25 years of experience to Center Branch from a variety of global industries as an executive coach and HR business partner for C-suite leaders. In 2020, Stacy worked directly with the Chief Financial Officer, Chief Communications Officer, and the Head of Strategic Development at Collins Aerospace when it merged with Raytheon Technologies. Prior to founding Center Branch, she was the head HR partner for the central functions at Collins Aerospace, a Raytheon Technologies company. She's also the author of Get Rooted, helping you identify values so you can understand your roots and using that foundation deal better with change. Yeah, it's the Daniel Pink book, To Sell is Human. And one of the first things he says in the very first chapter is, we're all salespeople. You may be selling a product or you may be selling an idea, but at some point in your life, you're selling. I was a school teacher for 16 years. I was a salesperson. I was a salesperson of ideas, but I was a salesperson. And I think that's true with public speaking too. If you recognize that it is also a sales relationship, that doesn't make it bad, by the way, folks, for anyone that immediately got warm shivers, because I think we have a negative connotation with sales that doesn't really exist as well.
I'm shocked because my very first job out of college, I was in sales. And I often leave that off the resume and then I'll bring it in casually. People, ask me what I've done in my career and I'll say, and I did sales. And I laugh because to your point, there's a shift in connotation. And then I bring it back to, and it's relatable. And so sales to me is being authentic and figuring out what does this person need and how can I be of service to provide it.
Right. Well, and it's, like I've had salespeople that are like, you know what? This is really not the product that you need. This is not a good thing for you. Don't buy it. Okay. It's a refreshing feeling, but it's again, because they're not after the sale. They're after actually a relationship with you. And guess what?
That's right.
I'll go back to them later and get something else because I trust them now because of my interest or at their interest in that point. So if someone really wants to make a dent in the universe, what are some of the top principles that people need to focus on or learn or pay attention to, or what can we draw out of this idea of Get Rooted to help us really impact the world?
It's such an impactful question. And I think back to two things. Number one, our earlier conversations on the fact that it has to start with self. Like, in order for us to make even the smallest dent in the universe for the greater good, we have to get rooted internally in the right things. And it has to be a conscious choice. And it has to be something that we're willing to, air quote, grow through and to really embrace. Because I think it starts there. The other part of that is, if we want to make an impact in this world, our motives have to be right. Mm-hmm. And our center branch has to be what we say it is. And when I started to write the book, I had a couple of goals, and I'll share what those are in just a moment. But my motive was, I want to impact people, and I want to do it one at a time. So the advice that I would give to your listeners is to start small, to think about you. How can you impact you? And then who's the next one person? And who's the next one person after that? And as you're figuring out the next one person, influencing them to influence. And I think about, I had mentioned before, the multiplier effect of that will make a dent in the universe. But if we start big and we start to we thinking too big and our motive isn't right, we won't make any progress and won't make any dent in the universe.
And so as we turn it around, what impact do you hope that this book, Get Rooted, has out into the world?
I just started to say that, and I paused because I get a little bit emotional when I think about it. I had two goals. One was to co-author this book with Jesus and for it to be spirit-led. So every single time I would sit down to talk about the book or to write or anything related to the book, I would pray, Jesus, co-author this. I'm not equipped to do it on my own. And I believe that has happened. So I read the book and I'm like, did I say that? So clearly Jesus co-authored, because I didn't remember saying in writing some of this. The second part, the second goal was to impact a single human being. I didn't write the book to make money. I didn't write the book for any other reason than I wanted to impact a single human being who could then turn around and impact another single human being. And based on some of the very emotional responses that I've gotten in the emails and just the notes, I think that has been fulfilled. And so my hope going forward is that one at a time, people pick up the book and they're inspired to look inside and maybe choose a little bit differently, or maybe get clear on what they're rooted in.
Today is all the easy questions, right? If you could travel into the far future and look back on your life, so beyond just the book, what impact do you hope you've had on the world?
Did you just say these are the easy questions?
Yeah, these are the easy questions. I've been told that other people don't think they're the easy questions, but I don't know what they're talking about. It's the easy stuff.
A little another little nugget, and over the last couple of weeks, you've learned this about me. Another nugget is that I use humor to mask emotion sometimes. So I joke around when I say these are the easy ones. I've been gifted a vision, and the vision that I've been gifted is, old lady Stacy. So somewhere far in the future gets a gift, and it's this beautifully wrapped box. And in the vision, it's gold and silver and very like a big bow. And it's the Hogan. I'm high on aesthetics. So I love the way that things look. And so old lady Stacy, and I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but that's how I view myself in this scenario, opens the gift. And inside the box is a red heart. And I get to pull the heart out of the box. And it's this overwhelming kind of what we talked about a few weeks ago, this joy, this overwhelming sentiment of joy. So I'm hopeful. I hope that I can look back on my life, and the gift that I'm given is love because I've given that out. And so if I can give one person the ability to look in the mirror and love who they see and love what they're rooted in, and they in turn are able to express that outwardly to somebody else, that is the hope for the impact that I have in this world.
I like that image. So what's coming next for you as you continue on this journey of living out your call and impacting the world? What's coming next before you get to the old lady Stacy part?
So the first thing that I'm going to say is that I'm going to try not to control the what's next. So I'm going to trust. I'm going to trust in the plan. That's the first thing. But what's next for me is a continuation of the work that I'm doing both individually and with groups, and really helping people see change, see their choice in change, and get rooted. And so that's a part of it. I continue that journey, and I've talked a lot about the multiplier effect, and I'm just so passionate about spreading that in a joyful way. The other part of that, and this is a little bit of a TBD and unknown, is Center Branch Ministries. So it's been placed on my heart that I will create, with the help of Jesus, ministry. And I don't know yet what that looks like, but I do know that is coming. And I have a feeling, knowing enough and knowing that I'm not going to control it, it's probably going to be here sooner than I think.
I would say that's probably a fair assessment. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's probably okay that you don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, because at least somebody does. So you're fine that
somebody does. I don't. And that's okay. And I'm going to trust and relinquish control, and all of the things that I write about in the book. I'm literally on a hour by hour, I'm practicing those things, just like I'm saying to everybody else. So by no means do I have it, in the bag, so to speak.
Well, tell you what, if you get it all figured out, let the rest of us know where it is, whatever it is. Okay. I keep telling people I'm still looking for the secret to life. I haven't found it yet, but I'm just going to keep looking, because I think that's part of the secret, right?
Well, depending on who finds it first, we'll have to let each other know.
You can follow Stacy over on LinkedIn as Stacy Henry 01, or you can find out more about her on her website at centerbranch.com. Of course, I'll have links to all of that over in the show notes as well. Stacy, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listener?
I just want to say thank you so much to the listeners. And I trust that you've taken a nugget or two through this. And I implore you to get really clear on your roots and then multiply that forward.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor. Go over to inspiredstewardship.com/iTunes rate, all one word, iTunes rate. It'll take you through how to leave a rating and review and how to make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get every episode as it comes out in your feed. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.